So I told you this was coming. Battle of the generation. PS5 versus the Xbox Series X. Head to head. This is the comparison video we are doing for these two mega consoles. I know what you're thinking. You hate my guts right now because you haven't been able to get even one of these. Although, surprisingly, the other day, I saw one of these in a Walmart. I shit you not. So, these are becoming more available than the PS5. PS5, still no chance in hell anyone's getting one of these. I'm sorry. Best of wishes. Don't forget to try nowinstock.com. That's how I eventually found this one. So, keep that site in mind. Nowinstock.com. They have all the big retailers. Best chance of getting one of these is online. But today we are doing the comparison between these two consoles. I've already done a first impression of this like 2 years ago. I just did a first impression of this a couple of weeks or months ago. This is going to be for 2022, 2023. I don't know when this will be launched on YouTube after the time of this recording. But so we are doing the comparison for these consoles right now. Okay, first things first. I want to go over a couple of things. One, I am neither a Sony fanboy nor a Microsoft diehard. Alright? I have Microsoft memorabilia, I have Sony memorabilia, I have Sony and Microsoft consoles, I got PS3 and Xbox 360, I used to have an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, and now I have a PS5 and an Xbox Series X. So, I don't play favorites. That's not going to stop some people from saying that I'm a shill to either one side, but I don't play favorites. I have pros and cons of both of these systems. And I also want to talk about their boxes. I mean, not the game console box, but the actual boxes they come in. Okay? Now for starters, these things are huge. Okay? But especially the PS5 box is freaking huge. I mean, this thing, I would not be surprised if people threw a lot of these out, which would make this box a lot more valuable in 20 years. I mean, hell, you should see how much a mint PS2 box goes for with the console. Like, they're rated at $1,000 now. So, if possible, try and keep your box. I mean, these things are huge. But, I mean, when actually looking at the packaging, I can barely fit in the screen now because of these two boxes, especially PS5. But the PlayStation 5 box, it's very wham bam, thank you ma'am, here's your console, enjoy. Alright? It's just a box to get you from point A to point B. You know, it's not a cheap box, alright? It has plenty of padding, plenty of whatnot. But I want to talk about the Xbox Series X box. This thing, they put so much freaking work into. I mean, this thing is an experience to open. I mean, it has like the game card, like they took a still from Forza 5. Earlier boxes have stills from Halo Infinite, so they kind of base it on the main exclusive game for the system at the time. But I mean, it opens up kind of like a laptop, and you get this little message on the inside that says power your dreams. That's wrapped around the actual system itself. But I mean, the foam inserts, the way the console is packaged, I mean, it is an experience opening this thing up. You feel like you just bought a premium quality console when you open up an Xbox Series X console. It is very, very nice. And from what I've seen, it's also the same on the Series S as well. And so very, very nice quality with that box. I know some of you are thinking, who the hell cares about the box? You probably don't. I just want to point out the nice job they did on this box. But now we are going to talk about the designs of these consoles. Now, if you're new to the channel, you probably don't know that I've already done some comparisons of game systems before. I did a comparison of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. That was my first console comparison I did. One of my first successful videos. You can check that out. I'll leave it in the description below. And then I also did a comparison of the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. That is also going to be left in the description down below. And so it was only a matter of time before I did a comparison on these. And for starters, the question is, do you want gloss or do you want matte? Because this has a matte finish, this has a gloss finish. Not the outside, of course. The outside, like white shell, doesn't have that. But this center section right here, the black center section, that is gloss black, and boy, does that thing like to get scratched up. Now, I've been able to keep mine relatively scratch-free, but I have a general brush that I use to brush off dust on the top. You can kind of see some scratches on the top just from that brush. I didn't scrape anything on that, so it is a very sensitive gloss finish. I shit you not. And this, while it's matte and it's not as sensitive as that, I do have to point out that it does show up fingerprints relatively easy. So, worth keeping that in mind. Now, let's talk about the designs of these two consoles, okay? This one is the flashier design, no doubt. I mean, this thing is it is designed to grab your attention the moment you walk in the room. Anytime I walk in a place and I see one of these, it's like, oh, that is a PS5. But this is the more utilitarian kind of minimalist design. It's the Xbox Series X. And it kind of depends on what you want. Do you want people to know what you have, or you want to kind of have it like people don't know what you have when they walk into your living room? Because, funny story, true story, I walked into a computer or tech repair shop that I frequent quite a bit, and one thing I like to do is I like to talk to, the repair guy on all the jobs he's working on. Oh, that's a laptop. What's wrong with that laptop? Oh, that's an Xbox One. What's wrong with that? And I'm going through all the stuff, and the last thing I notice, after an Xbox One, after a PlayStation, after laptops, was this. It was staying hidden, and it was right there, but it just was in between these two laptops, and I just didn't notice it. It's like, is that a Series X? Yeah, someone accidentally messed up the HDMI port in the back, and so, but I mean, it's just it was shocking to me how easy this thing stayed undercover out of, aha, that's a Series X. I mean, this thing can sneak up on you if you're not careful. And so, also, it's a lot smaller than I thought it'd be. I mean, when I've seen it in promo things, it always felt like this really big black monolith, like 2001 Space Odyssey monolith. But looking in person, it's a lot smaller than you'd think it'd be. And yeah, I know, it looks like it's concealing my entire torso, but that's just the depth perception. I mean, honestly, it is much, much smaller. I mean, look at that. That's my hand, and my hand is not that big. So the fact that my hand is wider than this thing apart is surprising how small this thing actually gets. Now this motherfucker, this thing is gigantic. I can't believe it. I mean, this thing is huge. I can hide behind it. Literally, if the cops were coming after me, I could literally squeeze behind this in my living room and just, peek out. I mean, this thing is huge. Hell, it probably would stop a bullet. Probably not. But I mean, it's huge. And I know, next to each other, it only looks a little bit bigger than this, but I made such a big deal how small this thing isn't that small, okay? I'm just saying I was expecting to be much bigger. This thing I was expecting to be around this size, and it's actually this size. I mean, here's just a side-by-side comparison, alright? There's my hand covering the Xbox One. There's my hand covering the PlayStation 5. Okay, see how much bigger it is than the Xbox One? I can even do a no-depth comparison. See? I mean, that's how much the PS5 just dwarfs that monolith. I mean, it's crazy. Now, there's a reason why these consoles are so freaking huge. There is. Because last generation, there's a kind of issue with heating, especially on PlayStation side. And this generation, the two companies, Sony and Microsoft, they were wise enough to go to the engineers like, hey, how we have the best cooled system? It's like, we need to make them big. It's like, okay, we'll make them big. And so the reason why the PlayStation 5 is so freaking huge is because it's designed to keep the system cool. Same thing with this. They made this a PC tower to help keep the system cool. And you know what? For that, thank you guys. I appreciate that they were focused on making these systems cool. And you know what? It doesn't have to be the greatest visual design in the world. Alright? Although this does look like a jock with his collar held up, and this one does look like a tank. So, now, something I do want to point out that is in favor of the PlayStation 5, and it's a small thing, but it has to do with the disk drives. Alright? Now, something I've had issue with Microsoft is I've never really been happy with their disk drives. The Xbox 360 disk drives were kind of just... I felt like I could break them with my pinky. And then the Xbox One drives didn't have a push-out disk tray drive, but they did have a drive that sucked it in, and every time I go put a physical game into the disk drive of my Xbox One, it always would get caught on like a lip or something. It felt like something was jammed in there, and then it was just... it was the lip that it was getting caught on. That it felt like I was going to break something eventually down the road. This Xbox has that same problem. It's brand new, I am the first owner, and it still feels like there is a lip that my disc is getting caught on every time I put something in there. I have to be real careful putting disc in. PlayStation 5 does not have this problem. I don't feel like there's a lip inside this mouth that gets caught up on the disc. So it's just something worth taking consideration for. I don't think that's a deal breaker for this console, but it's just something worth considering. If you really don't like your discs getting caught on something, then you might want to look at this. Now, something I found kind of funny is every now and then, any gamer will know you deal with like power removal, okay? A power shortage, you know, they think it's unplugged improperly, and let's say you're moving a console around, you plug it back in, and you get the sign saying you did not properly disconnect the power on this last time. And like with the PlayStation 5, there have been times that I go through all the process to disconnect extended storage on this, and it says you can now remove it. I remove it, then I turn off the console, and then when I turn it back on, it just freaks the hell out. I am so sorry. Whoa, dude, what the hell? Whoa, calm down, calm down. Oh, what are you doing? What the hell do you think you're doing? Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Oh, this isn't good for me. No, wait, no, you have to start over. We have to reload everything. You probably lost some games. What the hell are you doing? Oh, my brain is melting. Oh, will you start again? I did everything right. Oh, shit. Are you okay? Did you say something? Yeah, are you fine? No, I'm fine. Are you sure? Are you okay? No, I'm good. Really? I don't know, you might have lost one resume game, but you know, you got the L2. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All the stuff's good. All you saved, that's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, just
This is a little bit more temperamental than the Xbox is. I'm just saying. Yeah, no, I've had no issues with the Xbox saying that, oh, you did not properly unplug this last time, you're going to have to rebuild the database, you might have lost some game files. Never anything from that. This neurotic motherfucker, this neurotic psycho, like, honestly, if I hook in an external hard drive, move a game over, if I want to disconnect that, I have to go into the systems, click disconnect hard drive, and then I have to wait for like a minute before the thing finally like shuts off. And even then, like once or twice, I've had to say, you did not properly disconnect the hard drive last time. You might have faulty games or destroyed corrupted files. And there's been a couple of times I've had a corrupted game or two on this system, simply because it did not like that I tried removing the hard drive or whatnot. Now, horizontal versus vertical. It's an age-old question that we've had to deal with consoles since the early 2000s. Should you have these vertical or horizontal? Xbox Series X, it honestly doesn't matter. There's actually these little pegs on the side designed to have this thing horizontal if you want it horizontal. Kind of like this. I will say, I don't like that the bottom has like almost no venting. It's just this big round disc. And it's like, honestly, Microsoft, you should have made the stand a freaking X. Okay? That would have been perfect. But no, it's like just big round disc at the bottom. But I mean, the question is, should you have this horizontal or vertical? Well, for the Xbox, I would say vertical, simply because heat rises and the port it expels its heat through is the top. And then this, you want this vertical, okay? Because the stand it comes with, it's great vertical, but horizontally, it is so flimsy. This thing slides off it super easy. It is a terrible horizontal stand. There's some aftermarket horizontal stands that clip here and down here. You want to get those, all right? That's the way you want to do it. And then let's talk about how these are designed. I mean, honestly, with the design of these, it's kind of weird. The PlayStation has this big fan right here that sucks air through the front like this, and then it shoots out back, but in a downward angle through the back here. Also, apparently, it expels some fan at the very bottom, but the stand covers up most of that. So, another bad design right there. The Xbox, on the other hand, sucks in air through the bottom, through the back, and then shoots all the air through the top here. And since heat rises, it will automatically evacuate that direction anyway. So, honestly, in terms of just how the cooling is designed, I gotta give it to the Xbox. The Xbox is slightly better just in terms of how it's designed. I think it's kind of cool that they split the motherboard into two pieces to get it to fit. That's kind of cool. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this thing's going to melt, alright? It's still a fascinating design on the system. Comparing the two, this one has a slightly better heating design. That's all I'm saying. Not a deal breaker. Now, something interesting that was introduced with the PlayStation 4 was something called rest mode. Rest mode was a huge deal. I mean, you could actually pause the game, put the system in rest mode, it puts in a low power state, and you could go do something else if you had to. You had a honey-do list, you had a finish, or someone say, hey, I need your help real quick. Put the system in rest mode. It didn't work with every game, but it worked with like 98% of all games on the PlayStation 4. That came back over with the PlayStation 5. Great feature. I absolutely love it. Now, Xbox One did not have this feature. Someone told me you could do it. I tried it a couple of times. I could never get it to work on the Xbox One. I'm dubious if the Xbox One did have a rest mode. But it does have something this generation called Quick Resume. Now, a lot of people have made like huge boasts like, oh, you could have 3 games playing at the same time and you could jump in and back between them every 3 minutes. It's like, Who the fuck plays games like that? Okay? Usually, I will play one game, I will stick with that game until I'm done for the session, and then I'll play something else. Okay? I don't. I'm not suffering from ADD where I have to constantly be changing games every 3 minutes. If you do suffer from ADD, then yeah, this will be awesome for you. But no, the thing that is neat about this with Quick Resume, and why it's cool that you have 3 options, is you can have 3 games. For example, let's say you have Halo Infinite, you have Forza Horizon 5, and you have Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now let's say Friday night, you just want to chill out, you jump into Microsoft Flight Simulator, alright? And then you get out of it without Xing out the game, and then the following day, you want to play something action-packed, like Halo Infinite. You're playing with your friends online, and you play that for a little bit, and then the next day, you want to go back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Well, Quick Resume will take you right where you left off, without having to spend much time loading. You don't have to go through all the loading screens. You don't have to do any of that. Now, obviously, Flight Simulator won't do that because it is kind of like a online connected thing, but you get what I'm saying. You can actually have 3 rest modes for 3 different games, and that way when you come back to that game, you could take off right where you left off. And it's seamless. You just go to the menu, turn off the console without exiting out the game, and 9 times out of 10, bam, that game goes into rest mode. And you could just go right back to it hours, days, a week later. And it's awesome. And so now Sony just needs to figure out a way of making their 1 rest mode work for 3. You know? Sony does already kind of have like a Quick Resume. They just need to like tweak it a little bit to match what Microsoft's doing. So if you're okay with just 1 kind of Quick Resume system with rest mode, you'll be great with the PlayStation. But if you like the idea of being able to have like 3 games start off right where you left off, then you'll like the Xbox. Now, let's talk about exclusives. A console is only as good as the exclusives it gets. I have a lot of people, they try to go, it's not the exclusives that sell consoles. Those people are mentally handicapped, okay? The exclusives is what you come for. The other games are what you stay for, alright? Multiplayer is what you stay for, but it's the big exclusives that make you come to the console. Case in point, good reason to get this is you want to play God of War Ragnarok, or Horizon Forbidden West, or Spider-Man 2, or hell, a number of other games. The next Hideo Kojima project, if it's not an Xbox exclusive. Those are all exclusive to this system. The reason why I want to get an Xbox is because of Starfield. That's going to be exclusive. Also, a lot of Bethesda games are probably going to be exclusive on this, like Doom, like Fallout, like Elder Scrolls. And then you have Halo, you have Microsoft Flight Simulator, Forza Horizon 5. So the exclusives are what kind of bring you. And in terms of the exclusives that have come out so far for the system, I have to say I'm kind of leaning more towards what's released already for the Xbox than the PlayStation. Now, fair enough, PlayStation has some really good exclusives like Returnal. They have God of War. They have Horizon Forbidden West. However, a lot of those games, like Horizon 2 and God of War, are available on the PlayStation 4. I'm not complaining about that. I think that's awesome that last gen is still getting heavily supported, as it should. Microsoft had a lot of issues with last gen, and a couple of the games, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, is only exclusive to this next gen system. So is Scorn. So are a couple of things. And yeah, Halo Infinite is playable on Xbox One, so is Forza Horizon 5, but they do run a little bit better on here. And so, look, I'm not saying Microsoft has best exclusives. I'm just saying, as of right now, I've been liking their exclusives a little bit better than Sony. Now, tastes vary. You may have a different taste. You may go Ratchet & Clank, Returnal, Demon's Souls. That's what I care about. I don't care about racing or Master Chief. Alright, then you answered your own question. But, you know, judging from like an action standpoint, I'm not entirely nuts about Returnal. I'm certainly not nuts about Ratchet & Clank, especially because the writer, and I'm not nuts about, you know, Demon Souls, because I have the first 3 Dark Souls games. I haven't finished them yet, so why would I get Demon Souls? And so, you know, I'm kind of liking the exclusives on Xbox a little bit better. Now, some people like to make the argument, well, all of Xbox exclusives are on PC, so Xbox doesn't have any exclusives. Okay, fair point, but Sony is moving all their exclusives on a PC as well. So, like, the only difference is you have to wait a year for the Sony exclusives to get to PC. Xbox is just day one. So, and besides, so what if something's available on console and PC? Like, I used to be in PC, I switched to consoles because of the convenience, and when I found out that No Man's Sky was going to be on PC and PlayStation 4, I got a PlayStation 4 because I wanted to play No Man's Sky. Alright? It didn't bother me that it was also available on PC. It didn't bother me that it then eventually came out to Xbox One, and that it just recently, from time of this recording, came out to the Nintendo Switch. I think it's awesome that it's on all those platforms now. So, honestly, I think it just determines on the player what the exclusives are, how they're looking at it. I think Microsoft has a lot of great exclusives coming. I think Sony has some really good exclusives coming, but I'm very skeptical on Sony's future, because now it's looking like it's going to be mostly games as a service, live service games, which immediately is a huge fucking red flag for me. It's just like, oh, so Sony, you're going to make nothing but shit now. And that's kind of how it's going to look. I'm still hopeful that they're going to come out with the great single-player experiences like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn and sequel, you know, stuff like that. Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, but, you know, I'm not that big into live service games, apart from, like, No Man's Sky, or maybe Marvel's Avengers. But even then, those games are very single-player accessible, whereas other live service games, most live service games, are not. Now, something worth noting is, has there been any true next-gen experiences? And honestly, I've only come across one, and that was on the Microsoft Xbox Series X. Now look, I know, PlayStation 5 has some great next-gen experiences. Demon Souls, exclusive PS5. Ratchet & Clank, exclusive PS5. Returnal, exclusive PS5. But all those games, when I look at them and I see them, it's like those could play on the PS4 if they want to. I know they can. And before you come out and say Ratchet & Clank can't because it needs the SSD. No, Developable came out and said actually you could make Ratchet & Clank, the PS5 Ratchet & Clank, work on PS. You can even make it work on PS3. He said what they were doing was not that impressive. He explained how they were doing stuff. It's like, oh, okay, so it could work on PS3. But with the Xbox, the game I saw that I don't think would have worked on Xbox One or 360 was Microsoft Flight Simulator. I played a little bit of it, and man, this game is impressive. You get the entire planet Earth to fly around. It also utilizes beam satellite imagery to give you like 90% accurate locations around the world. And so I've gone to neighborhoods I've lived in, and it's like, holy shit, that's a neighborhood I used to live in. I know that street. I know that landmark. I know these places. And so the fact that you get this fully created 3D rendered replica of planet Earth, and you can have thunderstorms and cloud formations and time of day, and you can take off at airports. Like, this is something that it feels like last-gen systems cannot do. And so for that, I say that Xbox has the first truly next-gen experience with Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, I'm not saying they're the only system that's going to have them. I am positive PlayStation is eventually going to come out with true next-gen experiences. But as of right now, Sony's still making a lot of games for the PlayStation 4. So Horizon Forbidden West, play on PS4. God of War Ragnarok can play on PS4. Gran Turismo 7, PS4. And I'm not criticizing that. I think it's cool PS4 is still getting supported. But if you're asking me, what's the first truly next-gen experience I've seen? It has to be Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now let's talk about the menus. Now, Microsoft does have that still annoying menu where you have to go all the way over to the right to activate the DVD or CD you just put in. But they have introduced dynamic backgrounds. There's only a handful, like a couple Master Chief, there's a Fallout one, but there's a grounded one, but you still get kind of these really awesome dynamic backgrounds. PlayStation 5 got rid of the dynamic backgrounds that PlayStation 4 had. It really sucks. There were some great backgrounds I absolutely loved, but kind of a begrudgingly okay is each game card, when you move on to hit play, the entire background will be of like the game art for that game. And so it's like, okay, it kind of helps, but it still really sucks that we don't get out dynamic backgrounds. So I'm not saying either one's the winner. I guess Microsoft is very close to what you saw on Xbox One. So if you're moving from Xbox One to Series X, you're going to feel right at home. PlayStation went with a more creative, like, hey, let's radically change the way the menu looks. And it takes some getting used to. I am getting used to it, though. It's not a deal breaker. Now, something that absolutely fucking sucks on both of these is the storage. The storage sucks on this, and the storage really fucking sucks on this. And yeah, I know. You get 800 and so gigabytes. That's a lot of space. No, you don't get that on this. You get 640 gigabytes. A good chunk of it is for system-only storage that you cannot access. So you get a little bit over 500 gigs. You get 600 and something gigs. Ooh, real impressive. This, you at least get like 800 gigs out of a terabyte. And so, still sucks, but it's a little bit better. It gives you what the PlayStation 5 promised, which is salt in the wound for PlayStation. But even then, this 800 gigs is not fucking enough. So, you don't get to be proud about anything. Like, seriously, games are getting so fucking huge this generation that these systems needed to step it up. They needed to ramp it up. It's like, okay, what's a good base storage for consoles? 500 gigs? No. How about 2 terabytes? Oh, 2 terabytes is too big. Yeah, no, it's not. 2 terabytes is not that big. Alright? 1 terabyte wasn't big enough for the really premium, like PlayStation Pro, PS4 Pro had a 1 terabyte. It's like, that's not enough. Sony, that is not enough. And then the Xbox One X had an impressive 1 terabyte. Not even close. Not enough. Alright? Well, if we give you 2 terabytes, you won't need to buy storage then. No, we still will need to. Like, 2 terabytes, we'll be able to get like 20 games. Alright? We're still gonna have to expand, but at least we can enjoy like 20 games. With this shit, you're lucky if you can get like 10 games. Alright? If you're doing some backwards compatible games, then you can probably jump that up to like 20 games. Alright? It is such a pain in the ass managing games on these systems. And it would have been really nice if you had a built-in hard drive of 2 terabytes. I had some jackass online trying to argue that, oh, there's nothing wrong with the storage space. You're the one who has the problem. Like, this guy was a real fucking moron. Yeah, no. The storage on these sucked. Especially on this, since for the first year this came out, you could not add in a solid-state drive to this. So, the only way you could store PS5 games was on the internal hard drive. Okay? Also, you could not store PS5 games on a standard external hard drive. So basically, the only way you could store PS5 games was on the internal hard drive. So the only way you could enjoy a new PS5 game is by deleting a previous game you had to spend hours to install and get the update to. Yeah, Sony really needed to fucking delay this a year. Finally, when they released the patch that actually let you, do that simple thing of just storing a game onto external hard drive, it made it playable. I mean, literally, I had to pass on great PS5 deals because I had no more room for any more PS5 games. I didn't want to delete Call of Duty Cold War because it took me 3 freaking days to install that shit. So yeah, the storage on these sucks ass. Now, these both now have ways of expanding storage. PlayStation 5, it's coming. Finally, they got it. But the question is, do you want simple or do you want options? Because that's what you have to go with. And so, in terms of storage, with the Xbox Series X, this little slot right here, there's a card you can buy. They are really freaking expensive. You just slip in there, it reads it, ba bing, ba boom, you have it expand storage. It's proprietary tech, and that's the only way you're getting more solid state drive storage on this. They are really expensive though. PlayStation 5, you have to take off a side panel, unscrew a panel, but you can put in your own solid state drive as long as it reaches a certain criteria and has a heatsink. Then you can expand it from 200 megabytes or like 200 gigabytes, which is pathetically small, or you can go up to like 8 terabytes, which is ridiculously expensive. Like, you're going to be spending $2,000 for like a 8 terabyte SSD. And so, you know, like, do you want to put the time and work and effort into putting in like your own custom chosen SSD, or do you just want to buy one off the shelf and plug in the back, not have to worry about it? So, worth asking yourself that. Now, let's go on to the controllers. The controllers are kind of an interesting thing. It's not a hands down winner take all, because, like, yes, from face value, PlayStation 5 has the superior controller, because the Xbox, it's literally just an Xbox One controller with a new D-pad and a share button. And yes, I like the share button. I think the share button's awesome. I'm not nuts about the new D-pad. I like the D-pad on the original Xbox One controllers better, but here's the great thing. You can use an original Xbox One controller on Xbox Series X. I mean, it's just like, you just have to pair it. So if you have a really neat Xbox One design, you can use that on your Series X. So that awesome Phantom White controller that I have, I can use it on the Series X. Now, there are like some peripherals, like the Starlink peripheral, that you have to connect to the control. It won't work on a Series X control because of that share button, but you use the old Xbox One controller for that. But I mean, you know, apart from that, this is very much an Xbox One controller. It's a tad lighter. I think they have the components a little bit smaller in here. But, you know, it has like textured grips, which they did introduce on special edition Xbox One controllers. And the neat thing though, this one is really awesome. Let's say you have an Xbox One and you have had it for a while, and you have all these Xbox One like battery packs that you got to charge and play on your Xbox One. But now you're moving to Xbox Series X. It's like, okay, I have all these battery packs that they fit right into your Series X controller and play fine. So, like, they do have special Xbox Series X battery packs you can get, and they're like $30, but you can use all of your Xbox One battery packs. As long as they fit in, they work great. And so, I mean, yes, the Xbox One does come with a set of batteries with them, which is nice. I'm glad they did that. But batteries run out real quick, and I'm not the type of person that likes to just throw in new AA batteries every chance. I like to recharge batteries and use them that way. Now, the PlayStation 5 DualSense is truly next gen. I mean, this thing screams, this is the future. And you have some really cool things like adaptive triggers, where if you're pulling like a bow, it'll actually fight your finger a little bit. It feels like I'm going to break this. I feel like just one night I've been playing and I just feel like a gear like just snap. I don't know if that is the case. You know, I guess they've done enough testing with it. Thankfully, the touchpad is back, because then we wouldn't be able to enjoy PS4 games on this then. So I'm glad they kept that. It has a speaker like the PlayStation 4, but it also has a microphone. So honestly, if you just are playing a game and someone comes onto you with voice chat, you don't have to go rushing for a headset. It's like, okay, is this going to connect? You can literally just hit a button on your controls like, hey, how you doing? Okay, it's not the best audio, but it's just awesome that the controller now has a microphone in it. And then it also has haptic feedback so that, you can feel like raindrops in the controller. It's really awesome. But all of this comes at a severe price. This thing is a energy vampire. I want to take a stake and stake it in the heart because it just keeps sucking and sucking and sucking. I mean, this thing, I have to charge almost every day. That is how bad it is. And before you stop me and go, well, you need to turn down the intensity. No, I've already done it. I've turned it down the intensity and I've been able to bring it up to like maybe once every other day. I have to charge this. This thing is an energy vampire unlike the which you have never seen before. The Xbox Series X controller will last me like 5 days. Alright? If I'm not using a headphone through it. But this thing is just eats power. Now granted, it has a lot of shit going on in there. But I highly recommend you get like an add-on battery pack, or you get one of those neat like charging stations for this, because this thing is going to need to be charged constantly. I mean, shit you not. Okay, now let's talk about offline capabilities. Now, there's a lot of people around the world, in America to this day, they have no internet or shitty internet. And the question is, well, I need to be able to play offline. So what's the best console for me? Well, I'm glad to say that both these consoles will work offline with a huge major exception, and one does work offline a little bit better than the other one. So let's go over that major exception first. Regardless if you're buying it used or new, you have to go online one time to set up the system. Once you do that, you can switch it to offline and you can play stuff offline. And so once you get them set online though, PlayStation 5 is the more offline friendly, accessible one because it's backwards compatible games. You can play offline unless it's an online game. And it's PS5 games. For the most part, you can play offline once you start. Now, there are some exceptions like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, or any Call of Duty, because when you just pop those in, you don't get the game. Those are just download vouchers, so you have to download the game off the internet for those games. I hate it when they do that. But apart from that, there are PS5 games that are completely on the disc, and you pop in, you can play it without having to update it, you're golden. Xbox, slightly different story. If you make the Xbox your home Xbox, then you have a little bit more freedom to play stuff offline, but a lot of Series X games will do that stupid thing where part of it is online, like Halo Infinite and Microsoft Flight Simulator. But there are some Xbox One games and Xbox Series X games you can pop in here, play, and it should play without the update. Now, a lot of Xbox One games did require an update before you could play it offline, because it needs an update to work on the Xbox Series X. So that's one red flag right there. And then backwards compatible games, you have to download the Series X version before you can play it offline. Once you do the updates and download the versions you need, then you can play most of them offline unless they're an online only game. Slightly more simple with the PlayStation 5. So if you're looking for an offline system, I would lean towards the PlayStation 5 over the Series X. If you have some limited internet that isn't like on a download limit, or it just has problem cutting in and out, then you could go with this no problem and still have some fun offline if they have any shortages or whatnot. Just something worth keeping in mind. Now let's talk about backwards compatibility, since I brought it up. So both these systems are backwards compatible, but one is better than the other. Let's talk about PlayStation 5 first. So yes, PlayStation 5 is backwards compatible with like 99% of PlayStation 4 games. And that's it. yeah, I mean, PlayStation 4, great library of games. Do not get me wrong. And I didn't have to sacrifice really any games for my library. I did have to sacrifice some demos, which suck. You can't play any PS4 demos on here. I don't know why. And like some of them are okay, but there are some demos that served as like starting chapters for games. And like the Last Guardian VR demo, that won't play on here because it's a VR. It's a demo. And so even though it's the only thing released for that, it's still a demo. And so, but you get to play most of your PS4 games on here. There is something called Game Boost, but it's only implemented with like 20 games. It's not as big of a deal as Sony was making it out to be. And like it's great when it works, but I mean it's not on everything. And every now and then you'll see a PS4 game get like a Ps5 update, like Assassin's Creed Origins got a Ps5 update and Xbox Series X update. So the PS4 generation will play on this disc-based. You don't have to be online to play it for the most part. There's some exceptions. And then you got PS5 games. Now, the Xbox Series X will play about 60 classic Xbox games. It'll play around 500 360 games. And it'll play most Xbox One games. The only ones it won't play are Kinect games. And then it plays Xbox Series X games. So basically, this is like a generational machine. You can play from the beginning of Xbox Inception on this thing. And it's awesome. I absolutely love playing backwards compatible games on this. Most of my collection was on Xbox 360, so it's really neat being able to play my Xbox 360 collection on better improved hardware. And the neat thing about backwards compatibility on both these systems is they load faster, especially if you're playing on the internal solid state drive, which I would recommend. But like on the Xbox Series X, backwards compatibility has better resolution, better anti-aliasing filtering, anisotropic filtering, and then it also has auto HDR on a large majority of games. It also has FPS boost on a large selection of games. So a lot of these games are running at higher frame rates and with high dynamic range implemented on them when they originally didn't have them. And it's awesome. It's amazing. It's like playing a brand new game sometimes on some of these. So in terms of backwards compatibility, if you're all about legacy games, old games, backwards compatible games, you want to go with the Xbox. Unless you start off with PlayStation 4 and you think everything before that generation sucks, then go with the PS5. Now, something that are kind of equal with both these systems are super quiet, which I love, apart from the disk drives. The disk drives can get noisy, but they don't always run, so that's no big deal. And then they are also pretty fast to load. Now, with my hands-on first impression video of the PlayStation 5, I kind of felt like the quicker loading time was a crock of shit, and then I started really playing games, really appreciating, and it's like, okay, Dad, no, the faster loading is much better than previous generations. And same thing with the Xbox. Faster loading is really great, especially when you're loading stuff off the solid state drive. Digital Foundry and a couple other people have done tests showing that PlayStation 4 games and Xbox One games will load much faster on a solid state drive than the standard hard drive that the old systems had. So that's nice. Now real quick, PlayStation Now, Xbox Game Pass. I don't really do those, but I have played around with them quite a bit. And PlayStation Now is trying to catch up with Game Pass. They do have kind of like a Game Pass system now where, no pun intended, where they are like changing games out every couple months. And they have said they're going to bring in PlayStation Portable, PS1, PS2, PS3 games. But it's kind of a mess right now. It's better than it was initially announced. It still needs a lot of work. In time, it will be something worth enjoying, but they need to do a lot of work with it first. Game Pass, on the other hand, they've had several years to work on it. It's great. Game Pass is pretty awesome. If you don't like the idea of spending $60 or $70 on a game, and also you only play games like once, you're going to love this, because Game Pass is like $15 a month and you can play day one releases of huge games. So the new exclusive Scorn, you can play day one. The Halo, you're able to play day one. The next Starfield, the new Starfield game, day one you'll be able to play on this for $15 a month. So honestly, it's a hell of a deal, and it's doing wonders for Xbox. PlayStation Now will get there eventually, or PlayStation Plus, I guess is the accurate name for it. It'll get there eventually. Now, both these systems claim to do 120 frames per second on some games. I have not tried that yet because I do not have a 120 TV. I just have a 4K HDR TV. You know, poor me. Don't feel bad for a guy who has his own 4K high dynamic range TV. Okay. Don't feel bad for a guy who has these two consoles, okay? Now, one thing I haven't been able to try is ray tracing on both these games, and ray tracing is so awesome. I love ray tracing. A lot of people, they say, it's not that important, go for the performance so you get the 60 frames per second. Well, ray tracing is just so damn gorgeous. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, if you get that game, you want to play that with the ray tracing mode on. I understand, it has a performance mode that makes it much more smoother. Trust me, play it on the ray tracing mode. It is gorgeous. And I play a couple other games with ray tracing mode on. It's really awesome. I love ray tracing, especially when it's implemented very well. So, honestly, that is a great reason to get one of these two systems. I have no complaints about ray tracing on either of these two systems. Now, something I have noticed is technically Xbox is more powerful than the PS5, because it runs at like 12 teraflops, and the PlayStation 5 runs at like 10 teraflops, if you understand what teraflops are. But when you look at Digital Foundry comparisons and other comparisons from other like YouTube channels, the differences are very, very, very subtle. Like, they are not night and day, not like the PlayStation 4 with the Xbox One when those systems first came out. No, like, yeah, this will keep a stock 60 frames per second on some games, and this one will drop to like 55 frames per second every now and then. It's like, big deal. Like, okay, I can handle a system dropping 5 frames a second every now and then. Now, will this always be the case? Probably not. You'll probably, at the end of this life cycle, see some truly spectacular visual stunts on the Series X. But honestly, comparing Series X, PlayStation 5 games with each other, there's not a noticeable difference between the two. And one of the reasons is probably because this is being held back a little bit by the Series S. It's a weaker system, and so all these games that are coming out of this have to be able to run on the Series S. And then PlayStation 5, it's still making stuff for the PlayStation 4. So it's not really pushing ahead of the Xbox, and the Xbox is not really pushing ahead of the PS5 for those two reasons. So, honestly, if you're thinking, well, you know, I want the strongest system, you're probably not going to see a lot of difference if all your favorite games are on here. Now, both these have a really awesome feature where you can upgrade games to next-gen versions for the most part for free. There are some companies that are charging something, like PlayStation charges $10 every now and then for some of their games to get upgrade to PS5 version, and like sometimes with Call of Duty you'll get charged extra to get the PS5 version or the Xbox Series X version on top of the Xbox One version. But both these have different systems. Xbox, it's almost unified, real simple, like just you get an update and bam, you have the Xbox Series X version. PlayStation 5, you have to re-download the game. And so it's like, if you have the PS4 version, it's like, click here for the free PS5 upgrade. It just starts reinstalling the full game, PS5 version, and then once that starts, you could delete the PS4 game. And then there's also all these like loops you have to jump through sometimes, like with Avengers, you have to upload your save file and then re-download it from the cloud to get it on the PS5, and it can't go backwards. So like No Man's Sky, if you enjoyed VR on No Man's Sky and you got something cool in the PS5 version, you can't bring it back to the PS4 version to see it in VR, which sucks. And so, like, this has a far more simple upgrade path than the PlayStation does. Now, honestly, that didn't detract me from getting the PlayStation 5 first. and you learn to live with it. It's not a deal breaker. I know I've been saying that a lot, but I mean, it's really up to you what you choose. Now, in terms of peripherals, Xbox doesn't really have any unless you're talking about controllers. PlayStation does have the PS VR, which is an awesome headset. But the PlayStation 5 wasn't really designed for the PlayStation VR. You need this special adapter to get the PS4 camera to work. To play PS4, to play PlayStation VR games, you need the PS4 copy because PlayStation 5 games cannot play anything on PlayStation VR 1, which is stupid. I hate that. I need to have 2 copies of Hitman 3 because, reasons. I need 2 copies of No Man's Sky, 2 copies of Resident Evil Village. That is a lot of storage being wasted. And so, I mean, yeah, you have the VR headset with PlayStation 5, and yeah, you get to see PlayStation VR 1 games at their best resolution, at their best, graphics. Microsoft still, for some reason, hasn't gone to VR, which sucks. I think Microsoft could have some truly amazing VR experiences. Microsoft, please make a VR headset. Please. Now, do you need an upgrade right now? Honestly, you could still wait. Even though it's 2022, 2023, you can still kind of wait because PlayStation, if you have a PS4 or PS4 Pro, most of the huge heavy hitter games coming out on PlayStation 5 are also coming out on PlayStation 4. Alright, there's not a lot of experiences that are exclusive to PlayStation 5 yet. And they said that we're still going to be doing PlayStation 4 games for first party studios in 2023. So, honestly, you can wait until one of these comes down in price or you find one available to get one. Xbox is kind of leaving the Xbox One behind a little bit sooner than PlayStation is. And so, yeah, you probably will see more of a reason to get this a little bit sooner than this, even though this is in far higher demand than this is. And, it just kind of comes down, do you like the exclusives on Xbox to justify dumping your Xbox One or Xbox One X? And if you're not into their exclusives, do you feel like the graphical update of PS4 games that are also coming on PS5 is worth the upgrade? Honestly, I think you could probably still wait a little bit on either one of these. In terms of, which one I think, if you can only get one of these, it really comes down to your taste. If you want bang for your buck, most games possible, you're going to want to go with the Series X because you have 60 Xbox Classic games, you have 500 360, you have 99% of the Xbox One library, and then you have every new game coming out on Series X. This, you have PS4 and PS5. So, most bang for your buck in terms of games, yeah. Now, if you're not interested in legacy games, and you want to feel the next-gen controller, you're interested in VR, you want to get the new PlayStation VR 2, then yeah, absolutely, you want to go with the PS5. Hands down. In terms of smaller details, I don't think there's a lot of differences other than previous things I've mentioned before. And so it comes down to you. Which one do you feel you need better from what I've told you? So that's been my comparison video on the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series X. My name's Christopher Kyle, 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all.